Hey Bubble Buddies. So, let's talk about sex. Okay, I realize that's probably a really weird way to start this video, but if you guys remember, about 2 months ago I asked you guys to ask me questions about sex and marriage and dating and purity and boundaries, because there is a huge lack of Christian-centered YouTube videos about those sort of things. And if you're anything like me, you probably don't really know where to turn to learn about that stuff, and it's so easy to fall into what the world has to say rather than what God has to say. Kay Arthur once said that we need a revolution for sexual purity, and I feel super called to be a part of this revolution and to encourage you guys to be a part of the revolution as well. So thank you guys for all of the comments and messages that you sent me about this issue. I noticed that there was a strong theme about how do you resist temptation and not fall into the ways of the world. So I'm going to focus this video specifically on that. So a little bit about my dating backstory. I talk about this more in my True Love Waits video, but here's a condensed version. I wasn't allowed to date until I was 16, and when I first heard this, I was 12, and I was like, 16 is so far away. But once I turned 16, I was like, you know what, there aren't really any guys that I want to date, and so I stayed single until I was 18, and then I went out with this guy on 1 or 2 dates. It wasn't like a full-blown relationship or anything. In fact, we didn't even hold hands or hug or kiss or anything. But those dates were so incredibly terrible that they scared me away from dating. I ended up staying single for another 2 years and decided to just commit my life to God and pursuing Him and developing a stronger relationship with Him, because my entire life I was always so boy crazy, always, you know, why can't I date this guy? I want to date this guy, changing who I am to try to seek the approval of guys. I was always so lonely and desperate for feeling loved. Once I found my sense of self-worth and love in God, God brought me the perfect boyfriend, who actually was the brother of the guy I went to prom with, ironically enough. But we started working together, and he was my best friend for about 1.5 years, and then God worked out the timing in His incredible way, and we started dating, and we were each other's first kiss and first relationship, and it's 2.5 years later, and we're still dating. And I mean, only God can write a love story that incredible. And so I am a huge advocate for waiting to date until you're in college. In fact, a book I'm going to talk about later says that you should wait to date until you're ready to get married, because ultimately that's what dating is about. Dating is trying to figure out the person that you are going to end up with, you know? So why date when you're in middle school when you're not able to get married in middle school? Why do that? You know, you're basically setting yourself up for heartache. You can easily get to know guys or get to know girls, if you're a guy watching this, you know, through being friends, and you won't have to worry about that temptation, you know, and from the pressures of the world and things like that. Grow in your relationship with Christ before you pursue a dating relationship. I have some things that I want to share with you guys. I made note cards. A.W. Tozer said, humble yourself and cease to care what people think. So basically, how do we, you know, pursue God despite what the world may say? We ignore them. You know, we are called to be out of this world, which I'll get to in a second. We are called to not blend in. And so often we want to blend in with what other people are doing because standing out is awkward and weird and uncomfortable, but that's what we're called to do. People are going to laugh at you. People are going to think the idea of waiting till sex is an, you know, old school, not a modern day concept, you know, that's old news, that's not currently what the world believes. But, newsflash, we're not supposed to be a part of this world. I have a bunch of Bible verses that I'm going to share with you guys. I highly encourage you guys to write these Bible verses down and carry them around with you, because when the moment of temptation occurs, when your friends are ridiculing you, or maybe when you're with your boyfriend or your girlfriend and they're pressuring you, you're not going to be able to say, pause that thought, let me whip out this Bible verse to remember I'm not supposed to conform to the world. We need to have these Bible verses ingrained in us. In John 17:14 through 16, NLT translation, Jesus is praying to God, and He says, I have given them your word, and the world hates them because they do not belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world. I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but to keep them safe from the evil one. They do not belong to this world any more than I do. So again, we don't belong to this world. When we're in Christ, we're not supposed to blend in to the world. If people see you and don't see that you're a Christian, then you're not standing out enough. You need to live your faith boldly and proclaim it with love. Don't proclaim it with hate, because that's not the right way to do that. But, I mean, you're supposed to shine. People are supposed to see you and be like, what is so different about them? Yeah, it's not easy, but here are some more Bible verses. In John 15, verse 19, NLT translation, it says, the world would love you as one of its own if you belong to it, but you are no longer part of the world. I chose you to come out of the world, so it hates you. you. Again, the world is going to hate us. They won't see what's so special about Jesus until they feel it for themselves. And they'll think we're weird, frankly. They'll call us crazy Christians. They'll think our ways are really ridiculous. But until they experience it for themselves, they won't feel that kind of joy and peace that comes from a relationship with Jesus. Abraham, in the Old Testament, he was called to leave his homeland and go against what the other people were acting like and behaving. And he was called an alien, a stranger, a foreigner in the world. That's how we're supposed to feel. We're supposed to feel out of place here in this world. We're supposed to feel like strangers because, frankly, this isn't our home. We have a home in heaven, whereas people who are living for the now, who are living for sex and relationships before they get married, who are living for the present, they don't have that eternal hope, but we do. So we're going to feel out of place. It's a given. And then Romans 12:2 says, "Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." Again, it's definitely not easy, but God offers us a promise. You know, you guys are probably thinking, it's so difficult to resist temptation when my friends are mocking me or when my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever is pressuring me. How do I get out of that? There's hope. In 1 Corinthians 10:13 NLT translation, it says, "The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than what you can stand. When you are tempted, He will show you a way out so you can endure." God doesn't let you be tempted more than you can bear. Even if you're like, this is too much, God, He knows that you can handle it, and He gives a way out. The trick is the way out isn't easy. It might be embarrassing, it might hurt the other person, it might hurt your relationship, it might hurt friendships, but there is a way to make it a little bit easier, and that is to have a support system. A good base of strong Christian friends who can help you see how you're acting in a relationship, or can help you see if you're changing who you are in a relationship, can help you see the other person for who they really are. Another thing that we can find hope in is the fact that Jesus has overcome the world. You know, we're not worshiping a God who's like, I don't understand what you're going through, but yeah, have fun. Jesus was tempted for 40 days and nights in the wilderness by Satan, and He faced every single kind of temptation that we have faced, but He didn't sin. In John 16:33 NIV translation, it says, "I have told you these things so that you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." We're going to have trouble in this world. Jesus guarantees it. Jesus has gone through it, and He promises that we can overcome it too. So hang in there. Another thing to do is just to stand ground against your friends who are mocking you. You know, you just have to ignore them. You have to say, you know what, stop saying these things to me, because it is like when you let them say these things to you, when you don't find a Christian support system, when you don't rehearse these Bible verses, it's going to be so easy to say, yeah, well, maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll give in a little bit here. I like this verse because Jesus says, He actually turns to Peter and He says, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You don't have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Obviously, Peter wasn't Satan, but he was letting Satan cause him to fall into the ways of the world. And Jesus just said, stop, you know, you're not helping me out here. You know, and sometimes that's what we have to do to our friends. We have to just say, stop. We have to keep our eyes completely and totally focused on Jesus, because it's when we start to view, you know, other people and we start to worry about how they view us, that's when we slip up. Now, I want to share a couple of other things with you that aren't Bible verse related. I was reading through the comments and I came across 2 comments that were so awesome. One of the comments said, "I can tell you, I'm 22 and I still haven't had sex, and I'm even more thankful today that I haven't. You're going to appreciate it so much more every year you wait. It doesn't matter what all those people think of you. You are the one that is right, and your husband is going to be so happy one day to know that you waited, especially for him. The way I resisted temptation so much was to be just plain stubborn and not listen to what people said. Stay strong." Another comment that was on my YouTube video, one of the people asked, "How do I resist temptation and not care what they say?" And the commenter said, "Just understand that God is on your side, and those people who mock you do not understand real love. They would rather sleep around and give every physical thing they have to offer than to wait for the one person that truly loves them for who they are. They're being what the world wants them to be. If they say, well, it's our culture, that's just our generation, they are clueless. You are the smart one if you keep yourself pure until the time is right. Just ignore those people." There's some books and things that I recommend for you guys to read read. One of the first things I recommend is this Boundaries in Dating book and workbook right here. I'm a little over halfway through it. I haven't totally finished it yet. It's a tough book to work through, but I think it's going to be well worth it. Another good book to read is I Kiss Dating Goodbye, as well as the book Boy Meets Girl by Joshua Harris. Then there are two books that I haven't read yet, but I was recommended. The first one was And the Bride Wore White, and the second one is What Are You Waiting For? And both of those are by Dannah Gresh. And I also recommend reading the Diary of a Teenage Girl series, the Caitlin one specifically, because those books focus on purity and waiting till marriage, and the True Love Waits campaign and all of that stuff. And lastly, this book, Her, Becoming a Proverbs 31 Girl by Emily Cole, is also very good because it talks about how we can make ourselves the Proverbs 31 woman, and how we can help ourselves be the kind of wife that is mentioned in the Bible for when we do get married someday. Guys, sorry, there's no hymn book as far as I know, but maybe you can write one. Another thing that I recommend, there's this guy called Jefferson Bethke. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but you might remember him. He did the Why I Hate Religion But Love Jesus video, as well as Sex, Marriage, and Fairy Tales. And he has an awesome Facebook page, as well as a really cool blog, website kind of thing. It's really cool because he's engaged currently, and his fiance and him have been doing these kind of like relationship posts and things like that. And so if you want another perspective on, you know, dating and marriage and boundaries and purity and all of that fun stuff, definitely go check him and his fiance out, because they are really phenomenal. And lastly, Francis Chan and his wife have two videos here on YouTube called Christ-Centered Relationships. They're rather long and I haven't watched them yet, but I have a feeling they're going to be super good. So I recommend checking out those videos if you want any more information about this stuff. Yeah, I know that was probably a whole lot to take in, but let me tell you, dating my boyfriend for 2.5 years, neither of us having dated or kissed anybody else, I am so incredibly thankful for how God is continuing to write our love story, because it is turning out so much better than it would have had I written it on my own. Trust me, I tried lots of times with plenty of crushes I had. So yeah, hang in there, and if you have any more comments or questions about this kind of stuff, feel free to leave that in a comment below or message me. Again, I'll leave your names completely private if I choose to make another one of these videos, which I probably will. Also, I forgot to mention two things. One, I want to give away this book, so leave a comment below if you are interested in receiving this book. And also, all of the index cards I used in this video with Bible verses, with references to books and videos and things like that, I want to give away to you guys. My handwriting is really, really bad, so you probably won't be able to read it. So if you're interested in getting these Bible verse cards, and if you're able to read terrible handwriting, leave a comment below for that, because it's really awesome to carry around Bible verses with you and memorize them. And if you can't read bad handwriting, then leave a comment below saying, hey, I'm interested in getting those cards, but I can't read bad handwriting. And my mom actually mentioned that she wants to write these in calligraphy, which is a really spiffy way of writing. So if you want these cards but can't read bad handwriting, leave a comment below saying that as well, and my mom will write them in calligraphy for you. And I think that's it. So I will see you guys in my next video. Ciao.